He told me he still felt desire, but the body didn't follow. There was no drama in his voice, just a kind of quiet confusion, like he was watching a part of himself slip away without warning. "I thought I was okay," he said, "until one night, I wasn't." I've heard those words or something like them many times. And it's never really about just one night. It's about the slow erosion of confidence, of connection, of that quiet current of energy that once flowed without needing to be earned. I'm Dr. Thomas Leighton. I've spent over 40 years listening to men from all walks of life, farmers, soldiers, teachers, truck drivers, and if there's one thing they rarely say out loud, it's this: I don't feel like myself anymore. Not broken, not sick, just less. And for many, that loss begins in the bloodstream long before it shows up in the bedroom. You see, an erection isn't a lightning strike. It's a process, a response, a partnership between your brain, your hormones, and most importantly, your blood vessels. When those vessels narrow, when circulation slows, when inflammation builds quietly over the years, that partnership begins to fail, but not all at once. It starts with a hesitation, a softer mourning, a sense that something's missing. And here's the thing, it often has very little to do with testosterone and everything to do with food. If this message speaks to you, type 1. If you're not sure yet, type 0. Either way, thank you for being here. Let's walk through this together. There's a layer inside your blood vessels that most men have never heard of. It's called the endothelium, a thin, intelligent lining that keeps your arteries soft, open, and ready to expand when needed. Think of it like the conductor of your circulatory system. It helps blood flow freely, controls clotting, and signals your vessels to open when arousal begins. Without it, nothing moves, nothing flows. And yet the endothelium is deeply sensitive to sugar, to inflammation, to years of poor eating. Every time you reach for another processed snack, every time you skip a real meal for something fast and easy, the endothelium is quietly absorbing that impact. Over time, that damage hardens. The arteries stiffen, the vessels narrow, and the blood that once flowed freely to your heart, your brain, and yes, your penis starts to trickle instead of surge. It's why I often say, every erection is a mirror of your circulatory health. Not a performance, not a test, a reflection. Now here's where things get interesting. There are certain nutrients, simple, natural ones, that help restore and protect this delicate system. Not exotic superfoods or $90 supplements, but things your grandfather might have eaten without even realizing the wisdom in it. One of the most important? Magnesium. This humble mineral has been called nature's tranquilizer, not because it puts you to sleep, but because it calms the chaos inside your blood vessels. Studies from the Cleveland Clinic and the NIH have shown that magnesium helps relax arterial walls, lower blood pressure, and improve circulation, all critical for erectile health. When you're under stress, even the quiet kind blood vessels constrict. Magnesium softens that grip. And here's the best part. You don't need pills. Just a handful of pumpkin seeds or some dark leafy greens. A small, simple start. Try it for a few weeks. Notice how your body feels not just during intimacy, but while you sleep, or wake, or walk through the day. Sometimes healing doesn't shout. It just quietly returns. Another overlooked hero? Vitamin K2. Most people don't even know it exists. But without it, calcium, the mineral that's supposed to strengthen your bones, starts to clog your arteries instead. That calcium buildup is called vascular calcification, and it's one of the silent causes of stiff arteries and poor blood flow in aging men. But when you eat foods rich in vitamin K2, like raw cheese or pasture-raised eggs, that calcium gets guided back into your bones, where it belongs. No magic, just natural rerouting. Now, I'm not here to build a perfect meal plan, but I do want to offer something small and doable. One meal a day, just one, built with care, built with purpose. Grass-fed beef, a little raw cheese, some arugula, a spoonful of pumpkin seeds, maybe a boiled egg. These aren't exotic choices. They're reminders of something older, a time when food was fuel, not entertainment. And if you're wondering where the science is, it's right there. Arugula contains compounds that boost nitric oxide, the very molecule that tells your vessels to open wide during arousal. Zinc in beef supports testosterone not in a boost your manhood way, but in a quiet, stabilizing way that helps you feel like yourself again. Pumpkin seeds? They're rich in magnesium and selenium, two minerals your endothelium depends on. This isn't about being perfect, it's about being present. One nourishing meal, chosen with care, can sometimes do more for your sexual health than any supplement ever could. And when you eat that meal, I'd invite you to notice how you feel, not just right after, but the next morning, when you wake, when you breathe. Is there a little more energy? A little more clarity? Those are signs. If you're finding this helpful, or you're just starting to think differently about your health after 60, consider hitting the subscribe button. That way, you won't miss future insights made just for men like you. Because we don't need more noise, we need more listening. And your body is always speaking. A patient once told me, "Doc, I used to think food was just about weight, but now I see it's about whether I feel alive." He was 67, hadn't had intimacy with his wife in almost a year, not because of lack of love, but because his body just wouldn't respond. He thought it was low testosterone, but it wasn't. His labs came back fine. What wasn't fine was his blood flow. And when we looked deeper, the clues were hiding in plain sight. The soda with dinner, the afternoon pastry, the skipped breakfast replaced by coffee and nothing else. He wasn't starving. He was starving his endothelium. You see, the body doesn't rebel suddenly. It whispers first. It makes small adjustments, slower arousal, softer erections, mood swings, trouble sleeping. We often blame age, but more often, it's imbalance. Let's talk about another one of those imbalances, insulin resistance. Now, I know that sounds like something for diabetics to worry about, but here's what most men don't realize. Insulin resistance doesn't start with blood sugar problems. It starts with overwork. When you eat a diet rich in refined carbs, bread, pasta, desserts, sugary drinks, your insulin is constantly being summoned to manage those spikes. At first, it copes, but over time, that insulin becomes less effective. Blood sugar stays high, inflammation rises, and most critically, the endothelium gets damaged. It stiffens, it stops expanding, and it stops delivering blood where it's needed, including the very place that defines so much of a man's identity. This doesn't mean you have to go keto or count every carb, but it does mean being mindful. Replace just one heavy, carb-filled meal with something gentle, a protein, some greens, healthy fat. Let your body experience balance again, not punishment balance. Now, I want to speak softly about something we don't often name, but we all feel. That sense of losing connection with yourself. It happens gradually when you stop waking with energy, when touch no longer stirs you, when pleasure feels distant. And sometimes, the cause is not just physical, it's light, or rather, the absence of it. Vitamin D3, the hormone-like nutrient we get from the sun, is critical for your sexual health. Not just because it helps bones or boosts immunity, but because it directly supports testosterone production and vascular flexibility. A study out of Harvard Health found that men with low vitamin D3 levels were significantly more likely to experience erectile dysfunction not because of weakness, but because of impaired signaling between hormones and blood vessels. Think of vitamin D3 like the orchestra conductor. Without it, the music, your sexual function, your energy, your vitality loses rhythm. And here's the strange truth. Most men today are deficient. We spend our days indoors, behind windows, under artificial lights. Even in sunny places, we cover up, or the sun is too low in the sky during key months to do much good. So what can you do? A short walk in the early morning, no sunglasses, just 15 to 20 minutes of direct sun on your face and arms. If that's not possible, or during winter, a daily supplement of 5,000 to 10,000 IU of D3 can quietly begin restoring what's been missing. Not overnight, but over time. You might notice your sleep deepening, your mood lifting, and yes, your body beginning to respond again. Not just to stimulation, but to presence. That, to me, is the real miracle. When the body stops resisting and starts remembering. Now let's return to something even more subtle. Nitric oxide. It's the unsung hero of male function. When you're aroused, the brain doesn't just send a signal, it sends a cascade, and nitric oxide is the spark that lights the fuse. It tells your blood vessels to open, to soften, to welcome the rush of life. But stress, poor diet, and aging all lower nitric oxide levels, especially in men over 60. Thankfully, there are ways to gently rebuild that supply. Arugula, a peppery green, humble, and inexpensive, is one of the best natural sources of nitrate, which the body converts into nitric oxide. Beets are another. So is dark chocolate, the real kind, 70% cocoa or more. And here's something quiet and lovely. Slow, rhythmic breathing also boosts nitric oxide levels in the sinuses and bloodstream. A few minutes each day. In through your nose, slowly. Out through your mouth, gently. This isn't a wellness fad. It's biology, documented by researchers at Johns Hopkins and the NIH. You're not just calming your mind, you're restoring blood flow right where it matters. So breathe, not just for stress relief, but as an act of rebuilding your internal chemistry. The small things, a walk in the sun, a serving of greens, a deep breath before bed, they don't just fill time, they heal time. They return to you what the years may have borrowed. I once had a man tell me, "Doc, I didn't know how much of me had faded until I started to come back." It wasn't dramatic. He didn't overhaul his life. He just chose one meal a day to nourish himself, one habit to let go, one walk to take, and his body met him there. If that's something you long for, even quietly, it's not too late, because your body hasn't stopped hoping. It's just been waiting. There's a man I think about often. He was 74 when he first came into my office, stoic, still strong in the shoulders but tired in the eyes. He sat down and said, "I think something's wrong with me." Not in an urgent way, in a way that meant he'd carried the question for a while. He didn't feel broken, just dimmed. His energy had waned, his desire felt distant. Erections were rare, and when they came, they didn't last. He told me he missed the spark not just in bed, but in life. We ran some labs. They weren't bad. But they weren't the whole story. Because what was missing wasn't just testosterone or blood flow. It was rhythm. His days had lost their structure. Meals were scattered. Sleep came late. Light was missing. Movement was rare. And connection even to himself had grown quiet. So we didn't start with prescriptions. We started with mornings. 10 minutes of sunlight, a glass of water with lemon, a real breakfast with protein and fat, no screens, before 9 a.m. That was it. 3 months later, he didn't come back for a refill. He came back with color in his face. He said, "I didn't think I'd feel this way again. Not the sex, the presence." That's what this is really about. Presence. Being in your own body again. Feeling it move, breathe, awaken. Not for anyone else, not for performance, but because it feels good to be home. And so much of that begins with food. Not punishment, not diet culture, just key at nourishment. You see, in today's world, we've been taught to look for magic bullets, pills, procedures, biohacks. But most of what truly supports sexual vitality begins in your kitchen. Let me give you something simple to try. One meal a day built with intention, not fear. Here's what it might look like. Start with a modest cut of grass-fed beef, rich in zinc, which supports testosterone and immune function. Add a handful of pumpkin seeds, a quiet powerhouse for magnesium, selenium, and heart health. Toss in a few arugula leaves, bitter, peppery, and rich in nitrates that support nitric oxide production. Add a slice of raw cheese, unpasteurized if you can find it, one of the few food-based sources of vitamin K2. If you want something warm, boil a pasture-raised egg, full of choline, vitamin D, and natural fat. This isn't a prescription. It's a rhythm, a way of telling your body, "I see you." And here's something men often forget, especially after 60. Your body doesn't stop working. It adapts. It doesn't punish. It protects. So when it slows down, when it numbs or pulls away, it's not betrayal. It's a message, a soft, urgent one. And when you listen not just once, but over time, that same body begins to trust you again. Now, I know some of you may be wondering about supplements. Magnesium, zinc, D3, K2, should you take them? Maybe, but only if you've first tried food. Because the body understands food in a way it never quite understands pills, there's synergy in food vitamins surrounded by fats and minerals and enzymes that help them absorb and activate. That's why a fork can sometimes do what a capsule cannot. And if you do take supplements, let them be gentle companions, not replacements. The best supplement you can give your body? Stillness after eating, sunlight in the morning, water between meals, breath before sleep. These aren't luxuries. They're medicine. And here's one final thing I hope you'll carry with you. Sexual health is not just about what happens under the sheets. It's about what happens under your skin, in your arteries, your nerves, your hormones, your brain, and most of all, your spirit. When a man feels seen, when he feels safe, especially with himself, the body responds. Erections are not isolated events. They are conversations between systems. When those systems are nourished, trusted, supported, everything changes. And yes, sometimes medical support is needed. But often, what's needed first is care. Real care. The kind you offer not just in moments of crisis, but in quiet, consistent gestures like choosing a better breakfast, saying no to that second glass of wine, walking instead of scrolling, going outside when your instinct is to retreat. Small choices. Daily respect. Because when you begin treating your body like a partner, it begins showing up for you. I remember another man, just past 60, who said to me, "Doc, I thought I had to chase performance, but what I really needed was to return to presence." That line stayed with me. Return to presence. You don't need to feel like you're 30 again. You just need to feel like you belong in your own body. If you've been feeling disconnected, unsure, or even ashamed, I want you to know you're not alone. This isn't weakness. It's wisdom knocking at your door. And it's asking not for perfection, but for your attention. So here's your quiet invitation. Tonight, before bed, take a moment. Sit in stillness. Feel your breath. Recall what you ate today, not to judge, but to listen. Did it energize you or dull you? Was there a moment of light on your skin? A breath that slowed you down? Did your body feel welcomed? Because that's where healing begins, not in effort, but in awareness. Not in control, but in compassion. And if you feel even a flicker of that old spark returning not as fire, but as warmth, know this. You are not broken. You are rebuilding. And that is the most masculine thing you can do. If this message touched you, perhaps, share it quietly, as it was shared with you. Not for applause, but because somewhere, another man is still wondering if what he's feeling makes him weak. It doesn't. It makes him human. And sometimes, the strongest step is simply choosing the next right meal. I'll be here if you ever want to walk this road together. Until then, eat gently, live slowly, and trust your body still remembers how to come alive.